Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a concert of wind band music presented by your Coralville and Iowa City Community Band, an organization made up of amateur musicians from around the area. Our conductor is Mr. Robert Midd, who also serves as director of bands at West High School in Iowa City. For those of you who attend our concerts each week, you may have noticed a change in Mr. Midd's appearance. Gone is the distinguished beard, and in his place we find a more youthful, clean-shaven visage. We are told that this is an anniversary gift to his lovely wife, Ruth. However, upon closer inspection this afternoon, I noticed that the stubble seems to be coming back. So too bad, Ruth. That didn't last long. In today's program, please check out our corporate sponsors: West Music, Midwest One Bank, Hills Bank, University of Iowa Credit Union, and the florist shop Willow and Stock, our newest sponsor. These patrons of the arts are a good example of how important commercial institutions can be to an organization such as ours. They deserve our gratitude and support. We would like to begin today's program with our national anthem. All who are able, please rise. As is our tradition, our first selection is always the Iowa City Community Band March, composed by the late Thomas L. Davis. Mr. Davis always injected a generous dollop of swinging syncopation into his pieces, and this is no exception. We play it every week, and it never gets old. The Iowa City Community Band March. Ralph Vaughan Williams began his musical studies at age 6 and followed a normal sort of musically centered English academic approach to reach his goals. In 1904, Vaughan Williams became fascinated with English folk songs and carols. He traveled the countryside transcribing and preserving many of these ancient melodies. Later, he incorporated some of these songs and melodies into his own music, being fascinated by the beauty of the music itself and its anonymous history in the working lives of ordinary people. Despite his substantial involvement in church music and the religious subject matter of many of his works, he was described by his second wife as an atheist, who later drifted into cheerful agnosticism. In addition to its traditional use on All Saints' Day, Mr. Met is fond of using multiple repeats of this tune to help the West High senior class process out of their graduation ceremonies. Sine Nomine by Ralph Vaughan Williams, arranged by Alfred Reed. So with a graduation tune like that comes the almost uncontrollable urge to run right out and paint Class of '62 on a water tower somewhere. Oh, I may have spoken something I shouldn't have mentioned. For those of you who are following the program and noticing that we're not quite doing exactly the order, I should point out that we exchanged Sine Nomine and In the Forest of the King. There is one other change in the program, and that is the omission, the complete and total omission of Presidential Polonaise. A real load of a tune if there ever was one. And we just didn't want to put you through it. But however, the band is very insistent upon doing the announcement for the tune. So here, if we were playing Presidential Polonaise, this would have been the announcement. Hail to the Chief is the official tune played to announce that the President of the United States is entering the room. It has been successfully used by many past and current presidents, although lately Send in the Clown seems to be gaining popularity. But back in the 1880s, President Chester Arthur did not like the tune, so he commissioned Sousa to come up with something else, which Sousa did, a piece called Presidential Polonaise. It's in 3/4 time, and not very Sousa March-like sounding. The music has historical interest, sort of a musical footnote associated with a U.S. leader whom historians describe as the most forgotten U.S. president. Given that background, the tune makes a lot of sense. We would have played Presidential Polonaise, but thank God we're not. Moving on to As Torrents in Summer. The cantata The Saga of King Olaf, based on the writings of Longfellow, was written by Sir Edward Elgar between 1894 and 1896, and is recognized as one of Elgar's 4 main works of the 1890s. All 4 of these works use leitmotifs freely and imaginatively. A beautiful flowing chorus from King Olaf was entitled As Torrents in Summer. This lovely melody has been skillfully arranged for wind band by Albert Oliver Davis. The title reminds us that this is the 10-year anniversary of the 2008 Iowa River flood, which caused so much devastation to Coralville and Iowa City residents as well as the university. We use this lovely tune to remember all the heroic efforts of so many of our neighbors who fought the rising river. We hope you will enjoy As Torrents in Summer by Edward Elgar. A recent Pixar animated movie hit is Coco, the story of how a young Mexican boy pays homage to his departed family members during the celebration of the Day of the Dead, and at the same time brings his family back together in their lost love of indigenous music. The film production crew did extensive research on the musical inspiration for the soundtrack, recording, filming, and interviewing many of Mexico's finest folk art musicians. When you see the physical movements of the animated characters on the screen, where they place their fingers on the frets and how they move their bodies, these are authentic representations of how the real-life musicians actually move when performing. We hope that you will remember what you saw in the movie as we play Remember Me from Coco. It just would not seem right for us to perform a concert without a Carl King March included. King was and is an Iowa treasure, serving as the conductor of the Fort Dodge Municipal Band for many years. During his time spent as a performer and leader of circus bands, as well as his time in Fort Dodge, King continued to put out a stunning array of march classics. Our King selection for today is Allied Honor, featuring all of the King's signatures, strong melodies, strong counter melodies, and an abundance of toe-tapping rhythm. Maestro Med has chosen a march tempo which can only be called breathless. So don't blink or you will miss Allied Honor by Carl King. Born and raised in Wisconsin, composer Pierre Laplante has the French connection that comes with the state to our northeast and a little of the charming quirkiness that can sometimes go along with that nationality. That quirky approach shows up in the three-movement piece entitled In the Forests of Decatur. In the first movement, La Forêt is an old children's song traditionally used in childhood play. The title of this movement refers to the ferret, an animal which must have had some appeal to French kids way back then. The second movement melody is The Laurel Grove, an ancient tune going back centuries. It opens and closes in a quiet manner, suggesting a dreamlike quality. King Dagobert, the third movement, is a delightful and comical movement. It romps along in merry glee, describing a pompous royal with his pants on backwards. All in all, it's a nice series of tunes by a contemporary composer who lives not very far away from us, in the Forest of Decatur. You have been a wonderful audience, and we've greatly enjoyed playing for you today. Please to come to hear us this summer as we travel around to the various parks in Iowa City and Coralville. We close with our traditional final selection, The Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa.
Thank you.